All right, everybody, welcome. Appreciate everybody coming out today. This is week 6 and unit 6, and it's actually the last for the block. And then we'll go into the next part of the course, which is introductions on corrections. But we're going to go over a little bit of corrections today. So just so you guys are aware, this lesson is being recorded for learning purposes. As we're going through the lesson, make sure we're just following along with the Nearpod lesson, using the chat tools respectfully and appropriately, and then also respond to questions and instructions the first time. All right. Okay, so corrections here. Before I get going into what we're going to go into, I want to just go over the course real quick. Remember, on the front page, just right here, you're going to see all the class recordings. So if you missed a course, need something, you can go back in and take a look and watch it. I usually give hints at the end of class, just so you're aware. And then if you go into plan, you'll see today we have a live class here. And then the unit quiz and the course reflection will be due next week. If we go in, the end of the block is the 16th. So you got a little over about 2 weeks to get everything done here. So if you are behind, there is still plenty of time, but might as well get things done and work on your other classes or get to something better, right? Okay, if we were to go into content here, we're at unit 6. You can see all of here's some reference sheets if you need to look at anything. This is a good document from our the book that we go off of that talks about these type of things that we're going over today in more detail. Nearpod link, lesson recording, all that kind of stuff here. And then the course reflection, if you just make sure you write 100 words or more about what you've learned in the entire course, that would be great. And then we'll go over this quiz at the very end here. All right, so let's get started here. Do you guys recognize any of these people right here? Any of them look familiar? Yeah? Who do you recognize? Justin Bieber, okay. This was when Justin Bieber was arrested. Snoop Dogg when he was arrested. Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. That's when he was arrested. I think that's Hugh Grant. Mel Gibson. This is Microsoft guy. What's his name? Bill Gates. Tim Allen. Right here. Okay. So even our Hollywood friends sometimes will have gone behind bars a little bit every once in a while, okay? So I thought that was just kind of funny just to say, hey, you know, people do make mistakes there, right? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to watch this quick video. It's only about 2 minutes that talks about the history of the prison system. And now, the prison system has been very, bad. Like, if you were a prisoner, not bad, right? Things have got a little bit better, and there's different kind of a theory and theology that we'll kind of talk about, which will lead right into the next class that we're going to have next block, too. So let's go over this, and then we'll talk about it from there.
Until the 1500s, prisons weren't a punishment in their own right, but used for debtors or as a holding place for criminals before trial or sentencing. Conditions depended on how much you could pay your jailer for food and bedding. Bridewell Prison was opened in 1553 as part hospital, part orphanage and part shelter for vagabonds, but also a deterrent with harsh conditions. Similar houses of correction were extended to all towns in 1576. County jails were run by the local sheriff, but despite efforts at regulation by JPs and even Oliver Cromwell, by the 1700s they were still fairly awful places. Men, women and children were thrown in together with serious and petty offenders, leading to bullying and overcrowded and terrible conditions, and with prisoners dying of jail fever, probably typhus and spread by lice. Between 1776 and 1987, prisoners were held in rotting old warships called hulks with a 25% death rate. From the late 1700s, humanitarian reformers such as Howard and Fry lobbied for rehabilitation and better conditions as more criminals were incarcerated and the bloody code and transportation fell out of favour. By 1850, 90% of criminals were sent to prison, and the central government extended its control with prison inspectors and a National Prisons Commission. In 1842, Pentonville Prison was built along the lines of the separate system, housing 520 prisoners who spent 23 hours a day alone in their cells and exercised in masks to prevent human contact. Intended to give prisoners time for reflection, this led to high rates of insanity, delusion, and suicide. In 1865, the Prisons Act promised hard labour, hard fare, and hard board, forcing prisoners to spend hours a day on the treadmill, the crank, and shot drill. 1902 saw new principles for prisons with the abolition of hard labour and the introduction of borstalls until 1988, when they were replaced by young offenders institutions. In the first half of the century, shaved heads and arrows on uniforms were ended, and education, training, and paid work were introduced. However, throughout the century, the government struggled against the problems of reoffending, expense, and overcrowding, with 85,000 prisoners in 2010, and the Strangeway Prisons riot of April 1990 highlighting ongoing problems with the prison system.
All right. As you can see, there's a lot of changes and a lot of overcrowding. You've heard of that. Bad prisoner experiences, all those kind of things. But really, when we talk about corrections and we go into the theory of it, there's 4 goals of corrections. 1 is retribution. 2 is deterrence. 3 is rehabilitation. And 4 is custodial. Okay. We're going to talk about all 4 of those things, and you're going to want to just make sure you take note on those definitions because they will be on your quiz. Okay, the goal of retribution. Okay. The goal of retribution is those who support this goal feel that people who break the law do so on purpose, and then they deserve to be punished. So, for example, an eye for an eye theory would be kind of that mantra right there. Okay. The next one is deterrence. So deterrence is the penalty should exceed the crime, the true value of the crime, and that also that the crime should be made public so people can see, so you can kind of be like ridiculed for it. And so what they're hoping is that nobody will want to do it because they saw what other people went through, like, you know, this one, they're getting a whipping, and you'll never want to do the crime because it's deterring you from doing it. So that's deterrence. Just glad you guys are here, guys. Thanks. Okay, next one is rehabilitation. This is considered the most humane policy. The purpose of the goal of it in the corrections is to change the guilty party so that they no longer want to commit the crimes. Okay. There's something that we call, and we talked a little bit about last time, the revolving door, where all people do is they go out and then they come back in the prison system. Okay, the next one is custodial. So custodial, the goal is not concerned with the cause of the crime, nor is there any effort to change the criminal. Okay. Yeah, you didn't mess with it, you don't mess with it. Yep. So custodial is the goal is not concerned with the cause of the crime, nor is there any effort to change the criminal. So it's just basically like, look, we're going to be that person that just puts you in jail. We'll take care of you. Do whatever. Just don't bother society, right? So it's kind of just turning a blind eye to everything that's going on. Yep, you're right. Okay. All right. What theory do you support the most out of those 4 goals, and why? Let me get your thoughts. Which theory do you support the most and why? Rehabilitation. Okay, so why? Let's get some other ones. If you're not able to make it onto the link on here on the Nearpod, if you want to do it in the chat, that'd be great. So why would you support it? Most humane. Okay, very good. Yeah, I like that one too, right? I want to think that there's good in everybody, right? But then it comes to the point of, what if they keep doing it over and over again, or if there's something that is so bad and egregious and they're just evil, right? Okay, rehabilitation, because there's a chance they could turn their life around for the better than should take it. Okay, rehabilitation, instead of putting them bad people away in society, is helping those in need. Good. Deterrence, because it really does show that you could happen or discourage you from wanting to do it. Yeah, like some people, think that committing crimes or stuff like that is kind of fun, or they're playing Robin Hood, right? Taking from the rich, giving to the poor, that kind of stuff. So kind of interesting there. Rehabilitation, because it helps those get the help they need to come to a better place. Rehabilitation, because everyone deserves a second chance. Most likely rehabilitation, it's more humane and goes trying to fix the problems in most cases. Okay, rehabilitation and retribution. Okay, so a combination of them. Rehabilitation for those who have a chance to repair and recover themselves, and retribution for psychopaths and killers that are dangerous to society. Okay. Good, right? I'm not sure one goal would fit everybody, right? They said before that some people are not going to change their behaviors no matter what you do. If a criminal breaks the law, they deserve jail, but the police are stupid and lock up the wrong people. Okay. Yeah, I think really good comments here on all that. Thank you for doing that. Let's talk about another step in the prison system, which talks about adult probation and parole. Okay, so adult probation and parole is it's the probation officer's job to basically do the pre-sentencing report to the court when the defendant is awaiting sentencing, right? So you've probably heard at some point in time, like, this person got life without the potential of parole, right? Probation and parole. So that means they've probably done something so bad that we're never going to let them out of prison. If you have so much good behavior and stuff like that, then they'll let you out on probation and parole, where you can actually start assimilating back into society. And they've done that for a couple of reasons. One is, we talked about the rehabilitation. So it's good to kind of help rehabilitate them. The other one is it's a good what can you say? Like prep, I guess. Yeah, it's a good way to prep them to get back into society, assimilate back into society. So that's what I was kind of meaning there. But they're accountable to the judge at sentencing, okay? But it's the parole officer's job. Okay, there is what's called the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. What they do is they're the only ones that can grant parole to inmates. So they look through certain cases, okay, and they see if they have did good time in jail, what their initial offense was, all that kind of stuff, and it helps them, right? So helps them assimilate back into society, but still being under the thing of, hey, if you're doing anything wrong, we're going to take you right back in. Okay, let's talk a little bit about prison life. Okay. So the key element of the prison experience is classification of incoming inmates. So violent offenders are going to go to one area, while non-violent offenders are going to go to other, while less at risk are going to go to even like a different prison. That's almost like, I've heard of it known as like a country club. You just can't leave. So they play tennis and they do, things like that. They read books and stuff like that. And it's not like what you see in kind of the television shows. It's usually for white collar criminals. But other ones, right, they would go to the regular prison where it's very locked down. There's also like solitary confinement where they put you in an area you're all by yourself and you only get a little bit of time outside of your cell. A lot of things like that. Okay. They do have visitation is considered a privilege and can be allowed or disallowed at any point in time. Your certain constitutional rights do not happen in the jail. For example, you could, what was it? Like they can be searched at any point in time. Let's see here. So somebody said about work for the elderly, the public, and pay elderly electricity. Yeah, so they do actually have jobs in prison. You can actually go down and there's certain places they'll make furniture. Some of the prisons are making furniture. They're making copies and stuff like that. So they've actually put these people to work, which we'll kind of talk about in a second. And it's interesting. They'll have different jobs that they have to do, and they get a little bit of money, and there's kind of an economy that's in there, but you can only make so much. It's kind of interesting there. Somebody said white collar criminals, class and money can buy anything. It's true, because most white collar criminals are in the bigger, the less invasive one, right? And so kind of interesting. When somebody was in jail, he made blankets for the elderly homes. Yep. And so they put them to work, right? And you can see them like cleaning up the side of the road, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So the guards are there, but as I said, most of the day-to-day stuff is actually handled by the inmates. And so they have to create things like that. There are things, this does happen in prisons. There are shakedowns. So inmates and their property may be searched at any time under any condition, with or without the inmate's presence. There's different trends. Like today, I believe they wear the orange jumpsuits or whatever when they have to do community service. You think back in the day when they had the stripes and stuff like that, usually so they can stick out. Okay, day fines. So they do get paid a wage, but they take a portion of that wage and make it as, hey, this is like your rent, your food, your that kind of stuff. So it is kind of interesting. They have to kind of pay for it, trying to simulate what it'd be like in real life. Size and location of the correctional institution. They're thinking in the future that jails will be much smaller. Future prisons will be located in the cities and suburbs where the inmates located a job can find relocation and schooling and maintain family ties. One of the things that they used to do is they would take them away from their actual family and put them in like the family area and put them in different places. So like different places away from where it was, but it's better to have them close to a family member. And so having those close by, it's better to assimilate back into society. They've found, research has found. Restoration of the offender's rights. After years of good behavior release, offenders can vote, run for office, and even erase evicted convictions. So even though you may do bad things, like you could restore your rights after a while, but those are taken away when you go into prison. So here's some interesting things. Prisoners do have some rights. Officials cannot open letters addressed to the inmate's attorney or lawyer. An inmate can be prohibited from having long hair. A cell can be searched at any time for any reason. The prison is not required to pay inmates a minimum wage. So most do have some type of economy in it, but they're not required to. Okay, so here's kind of the big one we're talking about. If you have somebody that's really bad, sociopath, psychopath, whatever you want to call them, something that's still going on in some states is capital punishment, so the death penalty. So I know this may be controversial, but are you in favor of the death penalty and why? Okay, so somebody did ask on the chat, why can't an inmate have long hair? So usually I think they don't let the males have long hair, but the females they do. But usually because they grab them, and I mean there's fights, there's stabbings, people kill other people unfortunately in prison, so violent offenders. So yeah, I'm only assuming it's because of that, but I'm not for sure. Okay, so somebody said, no, they already have to spend their life in a cell. Why end their life? Okay, so somebody said, it depends on how horrible the crime they commit. Okay. Any other thoughts? It's kind of a hot topic that's still debated today. Again, it really depends on, because nowadays in cases like violent murders, rapes, etc., the family would rather suspect rot in prison as death is easy way out. Okay. If they're an absolute threat to society, will not change and have no desire, then I would agree. Okay. In favor, I believe that the criminal can deserve death penalty, but it is more strict policy get executed. Okay. Yeah, so that's something that you'll see on the news and stuff like that. Most states have gone away and abolished the death penalty, but there are some that still do it from time to time. Yes, I'm in favor of the death penalty. You should pay for what you've done. Okay, and see, as I said, there are varying opinions on it there. So I think the same just need to be not be on this earth anymore. Okay. All right, some strong opinions there. So, okay, so that is our lesson. If you have any questions, let's just go over the quiz real quick. Talk about the one with the eye, right? You can look back. I will open these up so you can actually look into the Nearpod and see what they are. You can go back in the video and watch it. Oops, I didn't want that. Yep. So you guys can now move through the Nearpod and look at these while you're doing the quiz. Eye for an eye, you know, not concerned with the crime. I want to make it public. Okay, consider the most humane. Okay, who prepares the pre-sentence report, right? We talked about that. So we talked about probation. And the pardon pro office, do they supervise the state, Utah state system? Or do they just say who can get parole or not, right? Pardon. Okay. All righty. So that's all we have here. Thank you guys for taking the class. I'll stop the recording in a second, but I'll see you in the next class, next block. Remember, you have all the way until, I believe, the 16th, 17th to get everything in the class. But I'll stop the recording here, but I'll stay after for any questions that you may have. So thanks, everybody.